I spend a lot of time in this podcast talking to the audience about problem solving, goal setting, dealing with adversity, and we're going to talk about this on the inside. This is podcast number 480, problem solving. I'll see you on the inside.
Welcome.
Attention, please.
Welcome aboard.
Welcome to the No Comfort Zone podcast. It's time to get out of your comfort zone and live on purpose. Broadcasting to the world from Rockford, Illinois. This is your wake-up call.
Warning.
You are the solutions to all your problems. Stop thinking average. Become the hero version of yourself. Every day, every time, without fail, no exceptions. It all matters. You've entered the No Comfort Zone. It's time for a reality check.
I would say about 2 years ago, I saw a movie with Matt Damon in it called The Martian. And one of the things that stuck out in that was a life or death situation as the main character. The plot is he ends up going to Mars and is basically, I think the plot of the story, without giving away any spoiler alerts, is that his goal is to, when he goes to Mars, is to basically, I think, colonize Mars. And what ends up happening is there's some adversity that happens, and then he's left with some choices, decisions, some actions to take. And one of the things that Matt Damon's character says in the movie was that, hey, it's really simple. If I want to get back home, I just have to solve enough problems in order for that to happen. Something along those lines. If you've been listening to this podcast long enough, you know that I'm horrible at quoting things or doing things verbatim. But the idea is that if this is the podcast about problem solving, goal setting, and dealing with adversity, that's a great premise, for a movie to check out, because that's what it's all about. So before I did this podcast this morning, I was doing some research on my own early morning Sunday. It is February 6th. And in doing so, I wanted to just Google. I got up and I was like, you know what? Problem solving, goal setting, adversity, Socrates. Socrates, those are the things that I was into this morning as I was writing out my journals and doing my goals personally and looking at my to-do list and my win list and everything in between. And I came up with something that was pretty interesting, according to my point of view, is that there's so much information on goal setting. And that leaves us to a point where, listen, why is it even important to have problem solving skills, goal setting skills, dealing with adversity skills? I think they're all one and the same. You truly have to know in this life, you have to know what you want. And I said it before, and I'll say it again. When I was very focused on salesman training people to understand the process, the system of selling, as well as understanding the ethics, the true ethics behind selling. I've had some great mentors in my career and people that I've paid a lot of money to go see. And I've spent the majority of my career learning how to sell, how to get outside of my comfort zone when it came to dealing with shyness, because I'm a brutally shy person, very introverted, but I had to get past this. One of the ways that I did that, going off on a tangent, is when I was really young and I didn't understand who I was as a person, I would drink and resource to different ways to get out of my own shyness, and drinking was one of those because I was terrified of people. I don't know why, I don't know what happened, but over the course I realized that learning how to persuade people to understand my opinions, my ideas, my thoughts, or my solutions was something that I was going to have to do. So I tried to do that in the Marines and becoming a better individual with structure and discipline and understanding what they do in the Marines and learning that lifestyle. And then the next thing was applying those principles and learning how to persuade people and actually learning the mechanics of selling, the psychology of selling, the art of selling, the vocabulary of selling. And in doing so, I realized that I could solve a lot of my problems and my customers' problems by coming up with a ethical solution to meet their wants and their needs. And now if I turn that back to me and I look at my life, and I'm sharing this with you now in this podcast, there's a lot of things that you could do now that'll help you go from point A to point B, whether it is solving a problem, whether it is going after your goals, or whether it is dealing with adversity. All of these things matter, but the key thing in all of this, the key thing in everything that you do and every action that you take, for example, is you're going to have to know what you want. You're going to have to know the end goal. What is it that you really want? You don't have to worry about getting there when you're setting a goal. The first thing you have to do is identify, what are your desires? What do you want? For example, here's the wrong way to do it. I want to meet more people and get myself out there without being afraid of rejection, without being afraid of people judging me. So what will I do? I'm going to drink. That'll lower that inhibition. That's fine for some people, but when you're structurally and you're not a sound person yet, you don't really know who you are, that's really a Band-Aid to a problem, and that could become a greater problem, as it did in my life. That was a bad solution. Now, you can go out there and enjoy a drink or two and, lubricate yourself to a point where you can feel more comfortable to say this and do that. And that's what it's there for. It's for normal people to enjoy those spirits, to mingle and stuff in moderation. That's great. That's something that I can't do, nor do I want to do anymore. And the reason I say that is because I found out who I am, and I don't need or want that in my life, because quite frankly, it slows down the ability for me to be really who I am. And that's the most exciting part. I finally found out who I am. And now that solution, although it was a solution, was a bad solution then, it's even a worse solution now and not even a consideration. My point being is I know what I want, and I chose a path. I took action. I had adverse things happen. And now that those adverse things have happened in my life, I have choices to make. Do I want to keep repeating that and going down that, which I did for a long time? Or do I take that opportunity and realize that I've learned from it, change my action plan, and go a different direction to achieve a different result, set a different goal? Why on earth would I want to solve a problem like that? Because I know ultimately it would give me happiness to have a bunch of friends, real friends, and have a bunch of people that actually want to know who I am, really who I am, not from what the alcohol would bring, but who I would really be as a person, and wanted to get to know them as well. Because if let's just call it what it is, if you're doing too much of living the high life that way and consuming things that make you change your state, well, what ends up happening is it's really all about you. It's not about the other person. And as you know, if you want to be in a great relationship, it's really all about the other person, making them feel significant. I learned that the long and hard way. And if you're having an issue with that, I'm telling you, it's not that hard. Just realize every time you take a drink or you do something, you're making yourself more important than the other person that you're trying to make feel significant, or that you should make feel significant. Case in point, your children. Case in point, your parents. Case in point, your significant other, your spouse. That's the way it just works. No, and I asked the question, I said, when I did the sales training, I would ask the question, to get back to it, I would ask that question over and over again. What do you want? What do you really want? And most people don't know. That is the hardest part of this podcast, is to explain to you that you have to truly know what you want. Again, you don't have to know how you're going to get there. You just really have to know what it is that you want. What is your desired outcome? What are you willing to want that's going to give you the necessary motivation, inspiration, ignition to take action, so that you can start to take steps in that direction, so you can get the momentum that you need. Most people, when they set a goal for themselves, they want momentum right away, and it doesn't work that way. You got to put one foot in front of the other. And as Jack Canfield, from the author of Chicken Soup for the Soul, that whole series, he says, you don't have to worry about basically how do you go from, let's say, Virginia to California. You just have to worry about, like a car, you have the 200 feet in front of you, the headlights. You just have to worry about the next 200 feet in front of you and where you're going. You have to know ultimately where you want to go, but you really, while you're accelerating and you're making decisions to turn left, turn right, move forward, you just have to keep moving forward, but you only have to worry about the next 200 feet. There you have your momentum, the next 200 feet. And I find that to be such an easy part when it comes to goal setting and taking action. Don't worry about the big picture. Just worry about how you're going to get to the next 200 feet and the way you're going to go about doing that. So there's going to be a right way to do things and a wrong way to do things. But I want to tell you that I've chose the wrong thing more than not, but I'm still doing the right thing because I'm taking action and moving in that direction. Something interesting while I was doing my research on goal setting, problem solving, and adversity this morning, one thing that came up is I looked through different YouTube videos and different people, and they're all saying the same thing as I'm telling you the same thing now. But what was interesting is that most people, if they put a yearly goal out there, which is really big for me, I'm big on the yearly goal thing. A year from now, I want to be blank. I'm going to act as if I have this in a year. What they're saying is that the majority of people that set yearly goals don't hit them. And this is one person's point of view, but I'm going to agree with this one person's point of view. And I wish I can give him a shout out because it was a pretty good 5-minute video. What's interesting is that I know that I have my 5-year goal, but you really have to look at your 5, 4, 3, 2 year goals, and then also your 1-year goal. And you have to keep breaking that down into, let's say 3 months, let's say weeks, let's say days. And I'm even currently doing that right now with certain things in my life. But I guess what I want to bring home is this, that if you know what you want 5 years from now, and you work daily towards it by having milestones along the way, you have a substantially better chance of hitting that goal. They even say a 67% chance of hitting that. The big problem is, and there's a solution, the big problem is that most people don't have a big enough goal to inspire them to get to that first 200 feet. Isn't that interesting? It's almost like you get defeated, and maybe you've been there before. Maybe you get defeated and you say to yourself, that goal's too big, I'm not going to get it, I'll just settle for this. I recently sat down with somebody that I work with and we were talking about goals, and they asked a question to me and they said, well, can we cut this part of my equation out of it? Because it's going to be much more difficult in these times because of the way people are doing things with COVID and supply chains and everything else. And I said, listen, just imagine a target, and your target is here, and that's where you want to be at, in the middle of the target, and that's where you need to be, and that's you. And then also that ring around you, that target around you, just imagine a circle, 360 days around you, that circle. Just imagine that's really where you want, what things you want in your life, whether it's the income, the house, the relationships, and all that stuff around you. Do you really want to lower or decrease those goals so the circle becomes smaller in order to achieve what you want in life and actually settle? And that's what people do. Or do you want to expand that ring and go for more? There's a huge difference between, let's call it just minimum wage, and being the top 1% of the country. There's a huge difference in the income. But in the next podcast I'm going to talk about is the percentages and what's going on right now in the world and the economy. What you put into it, your ability to solve that problem and knowing what you want, is going to have a huge effect on other areas of your life. Solve this fundamental work ethical problem, solve that problem, and then from that result, you're going to get some results, and those results are going to help you in other areas of your life where you have other goals. And it becomes this cascading effect of achieving multiple goals at the same time. And I know that sounds a little deep, and I get a little esoteric on this stuff. I think that's the right word to use. But really what I want to say is this: have a plan, work your ass off, have a big enough plan that in 5 years you'll achieve it, because you have a greater percentage of chance of achieving it if you look at it daily. And then know that actually whatever problem you have, there is a solution. As long as you work towards it, right or wrong, and make adjustments, ultimately you're going to get there. So I'm going to share this with you. That's the last thing I'm going to say on this podcast is this: one, you have to know exactly what it is that you want. 2, you have to know what resources you have that are available. And number 3, use all of your resources, your time and your energy in those resources until you achieve that goal, and you'll achieve the goal. Have a plan, put it in place, and work towards it. This is Dan. I am the creator of the No Comfort Zone podcast. At the end of this podcast, here's my call to action. I'm trying to grow the podcast. I'm trying to grow this show. I'm trying to increase my listeners so that somebody out there that has a plan, somebody that has a goal, somebody that's dealing with adversity, I know it's very broad, but whatever that might be, you can apply these principles that you learn in this podcast to have a better quality of life. And if you hear it from me on a consistent and regular basis, you might start to believe in yourself when you apply those things. And that's what this is all about, for you to start believing in yourself, that you are the solution to your problems, that you have every solution that you're ever going to need within you. And when you apply some sort of a plan towards your adversity, towards your problem, and knowing what it is that you want in life, there's a better chance you're going to achieve it. And I want to help you with that. If you need additional or more help, I'm looking for 3 people right now. Go to the NoComfortZone.com. It's kind of messed up at the moment, but go to the NoComfortZone.com. Get on my calendar, schedule a call. Let me call you. Let's have a conversation about where you're at and where you want to go. And I know that my blueprint can help you, and I'll even send you a copy of it. Just go to the NoComfortZone.com, get on my calendar so we can begin to start that dialogue. I appreciate all the listeners out there, and I do want to tell you this, is that the show is growing. It is doing well, but I just definitely want to have a bigger impact than I've had. So changing things up a little bit and also connecting a little bit more. And I do want you to know this too, is that whatever you have going on in your life, it's not easy. There's good times and there's bad times. And when there's bad times, you can come to the show and you can actually listen to what I have to say. And maybe it'll help you get through that adversity. And maybe it'll help you, inspire you to start setting bigger goals and become a better version of yourself. Nothing is going to change in your life until you get outside of your comfort zone and live on purpose.
Say goodbye.
Want more of the No Comfort Zone? You can follow Dan on Instagram and Twitter at NoComfortZone1.
Bye.
Or on the web at thenocomfortzone.com.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to the No Comfort Zone podcast.
Bye-bye.